All right, perfect. Welcome everyone to the kickoff for the Magic Makers. I hope I'm not going to regret that name, but it felt really right at the time that I created it. So that's fantastic. Today is the 27th of October, and we're meeting at noon in, 8 minutes past noon now, UK time. And we're really meeting at a time where, for many of us, we're very, very aware of the world being in a pivotal moment, probably more pivotal than we realized it leading up to this, but it's very much present. It's very much in our face, and it will be absolutely 100% reawakening things within us, within our own personal history and life, that are related to what I just term brutality, but also to our ancestral experiences and how that's encoded within us. And even I want to extend this to past lives and how that has a massive impact on our behavior at any one time. So I'm really, really grateful for you all being here and for joining me as we bring in these new concepts of healing into the world, where we will explore our individual contribution to, broadly, restorative justice. And that is via healing the brutality that is a part of each of us. So this work has the potential to, of course, change your health and your life, but it also means that your uncharged reactions will be a resource when there are multiple fires raging within incredibly explosive situations. So what influence we have within our world needs to be from a wider perspective than we have all been indoctrinated into believing is the highest potential available. And I'd like to explain this using some biological examples, because at the end of the day, we are biological. We have physiological systems that are driving huge amounts of our behavior. And to understand ourselves in that evolutionary and ecological perspective can actually bring a very different version of the world to us and allow us to see our healing in a different way. So there's a concept in biology and human behavior of the shifting baseline. And I'm deriving some of this from a podcast that I listened to actually just this morning, and it will be in the notes that you get. The podcast for this one is called We Live in a 10% World, and that's important. That 10% is important as we move forward. How is this related to our desire to enact change in our world? This idea of the shifting baseline. It is essential for us to widen our perspective of what normal is. For us, our communities, the world community, our relationship with the land and the greater ecosystem, and our spiritual connections. So from a biological perspective, we all now live in what is essentially a 10% world compared to what there was available even 200 years ago. This is the ecosystems, this is the number of the biomass of species, etc. We only have 10% of what we had even just 200 years ago. And most of us, because we come from family situations or societal situations, we don't even have the elders that have passed down the information to us in a way that makes us understand there's something so much more valuable, or not so much valuable, but so much wider than what we've ever been able to see in our lifetimes. So what if the 10% world wasn't just our ecosystem? This is one of the questions I've been working with. What if we have also lost 90% of the possibilities that are available to us within what it is to be a human being on this planet? What if we are setting our sights way too small for the changes that we are actually capable of enacting? That's my question to us. And that's my question for how we can open up the possibilities within this Magic Makers community. So the shifting baseline piece is an important concept when we consider the push for restorative justice from our personal actions or inactions and the actions of our ancestors. We need to be mindful of what we are restoring things to, and not just allow it to be based on the 10% that is our experience of that maximum possibility, but allow ourselves to widen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. We have a new but old concept of the potential of ourselves and our world. We have that within us. We know it somewhere, and we need to unearth it. So most of us here today already have an understanding of the philosophical and practical movement that recognizes a very different perspective of our place in the world than the one that has been carved into the framework of the societies we live in. That different perspective is that we are a part of an overall ecosystem, part of Gaia, and indeed are an ecosystem in our own physical forms, very, very literally. And that we are not at the top of it. The brutality implicit in the systems we have inherited, including, and just a few things that were off the top of my head, the buildings that many of us live in or study in being made from slave labor, or the proceeds that came from that, the conflicts going on around the world being in a direct extension of the policies that were prioritizing one aspect of humanity or life on Earth over another. And often that was in a reactive and a manipulative way for an individual state power. And of course, there are so many more examples, but it's important that we understand that it's also within us. It is driving some of our physiology, because it's also the toxins that come from the industrial farming and the anti-life medicines that most of us grew up imbibing. So this is unfortunately not new. Humanity has been embroiled in an us versus them instinct as a part of our evolution from a single cell organism. It is part of our physiology, especially as a first reaction to trauma. This is called the cell defense response. And it means that we retreat into an extreme mode of I am alone, and it is every man or cell for themselves. And what has been found recently is that without this phase of reaction, our healing is incomplete. It is the biological push to survive that is playing itself out within us that is not wrong, but it needs to be allowed to be opened up and realized, and then the next phases of healing will start to happen. We will come back into a greater whole. So the healing, the process of healing will ideally reorganize into a viable ecosystem that allows the cooperation and harmony that we all need. The body has to overcome the separation phase by allowing it to fully happen, release, and then it can step into another phase of healing. So this extreme separation phase that includes a kill or be killed mode of reactivity as a part of our healing response means we need to accept that we are capable of being brutal at our core. And I don't know about you, but I need a big, deep breath. Accepting my own inherent brutality that comes from the innate biological system that I am. It's an important part of understanding my perspectives on the world at any one moment. And from my perspective as a healer, it is our job to lessen that brutality phase and its grip on us, and how far it penetrates into our psyche and our physiology, so that we can tap into that inner knowing of the 90% that has been forgotten by most of the world. It is possible for us to become injured, but our entire ecosystem of our body doesn't have to be drawn into the conflict. So after working with people for nearly 20 years to heal their physical bodies, I know that removing the leftover experiences of trauma allows the greatest changes to bodies and lives and relationships. And when we change those things, we can change our whole experience of the world. And this is because the reactivity of the whole organism into a brutal context is lessened as we lessen the stories that are allowed to live within us. So our trauma stories link us to the vision of the 10% world versus the wider potentiality for us and all of Gaia. And that includes what our leaders envision as a possibility for our nation states interacting with other nation states. So my desire is for us to heal at the core of what we believe is the potential for us and our world. We have to start this by bringing in self-compassion. And that's that self-compassion for that brutality that is within us. Just even from our basic instinct to live, or possibly through our reactivity due to other experiences we've had in our lives, or possibly to our reactivity due to what our ancestors went through, or possibly due to our reactivity due to what has happened to us in previous incarnations. So this is what we are working on today. We're working on the first step of this, which is the self-compassion. All right, that's the end of the intro. And let's open it up for some questions, but let me turn this recording off for now. Thank you.